Breaking news. Things are heating up, and the Bengals front office is willing to go much further this new season. Yes, my friends, something big could be happening in Cincinnati. There's a growing feeling among fans that a major change may be taking place on one side of the field. And if it turns out to be true the way many believe, it could completely change how opponents view the Bengals in 2026. Because for months, maybe even longer, one topic kept coming up among fans: the defense. Not just improving it a little, not just patching the holes, but completely changing its identity. And now, some very strong opinions are starting to emerge, suggesting that the Bengals may have done exactly that. I'm about to tell you all the details about this. Before we continue, a quick note. If you're a die-hard Bengals fan and want your team's news firsthand, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If possible, write this: "Who Dey? I believe in the Super Bowl." Now, let's get to what matters. There's a reason this conversation suddenly gained momentum. ESPN's Bill Barnwell recently highlighted what Cincinnati did this offseason and suggested that what the Bengals built on defense could end up becoming one of the biggest improvements in the entire NFL. And that's not a small statement. Not even close. Because think about the way fans viewed this team not that long ago. Every discussion eventually circled back to the same frustration. The defense needed help. The defensive line needed help. Depth was needed. Rotations were needed. And more importantly, there had to be a better plan when things went wrong. And according to the material discussed, Cincinnati didn't just make one move. They attacked the issue from multiple angles. That's what makes this interesting. One of the biggest talking points was the overhaul up front. The report emphasized how much deeper Cincinnati suddenly looks along the defensive line. Instead of leaning heavily on one player for nearly every snap, the expectation now is that the Bengals finally have legitimate rotation pieces. And when you really think about it, that changes everything. Because football isn't only about who starts, it's about who's fresh in the fourth quarter. It's about who can come in after somebody needs a breather. It's about what happens if injuries happen. It's about having answers. Last season, one of the major concerns discussed was depending heavily on Trey Hendrickson and not really having a true plan B when he wasn't on the field. The conversation now sounds very different because suddenly there are names all over the place being discussed as part of a deeper rotation. The report specifically highlighted additions and pieces like Boy Mafe at edge rusher, Jonathan Allen, and Dexter Lawrence at defensive tackle, along with continued development from other players already in the mix. And let's stop there for a second, because one name kept jumping out repeatedly: Dexter Lawrence. The discussion around his arrival was treated as enormous, huge, franchise-altering levels of impact. It was even described as a gigantic move. And the reason goes beyond sack numbers. That's important. Fans sometimes immediately look for pass rush statistics. They want flashy numbers. But what was being discussed here was something deeper: the ripple effect a player like Dexter Lawrence can create. And this is where things get fascinating. Barnwell's argument wasn't simply better defensive line equals more sacks. The argument was a better defensive line changes life for everyone else behind them. Linebackers, safeties, corners, everyone. And that leads directly into one of the ugliest numbers attached to Cincinnati's defense from last season: missed tackles. According to figures referenced during the discussion, the Bengals missed 170 tackles last year, reportedly 39 more than any other NFL team. Think about that. 170. And when that stat gets attached to your defense, suddenly every small mistake turns into a disaster. A short gain becomes a huge play. A manageable situation turns into chaos. The report also mentioned Cincinnati finishing last in yards allowed before first contact on running plays. That tells a brutal story. Opponents weren't just getting through, they were getting through clean. They were getting space, they were getting momentum. And if players are reaching the second level or third level already moving at full speed, tackling becomes dramatically harder. That's the chain reaction Barnwell was talking about. A stronger defensive front slows everything down. It forces traffic. It creates hesitation. And suddenly defenders behind them aren't trying to tackle players already sprinting in open space. That alone could reshape entire games. And there's another detail that makes this feel bigger. Cincinnati apparently didn't stop with just the defensive line. The conversation pointed toward changes in the secondary, too. Specifically, the report highlighted a swap involving Geno Stone and Brian Cook, and the reasoning centered once again around tackling. The discussion compared missed tackle numbers and suggested Brian Cook could represent a massive upgrade in that area. So now look at what's being built. Defensive line helping linebackers. Secondary helping linebackers. Secondary helping defensive line. Everything becoming connected. And if that chemistry works, suddenly Cincinnati may not just be talking about improvement. They may be talking about transformation. There was also heavy discussion around how the defensive line rotation itself could function. Myles Murphy was mentioned as a player already providing solid play. Boye Mafe was described as someone familiar with rotational systems. Shamar Stewart's development was discussed. Cassius Howell entered the picture after being selected early in the draft process. And at defensive tackle, the expectation appears to involve major contributions from Lawrence and Allen, while names like B.J. Hill and T.J. Slayton add further depth. Additional young pieces and developmental talent were also mentioned. And honestly, one word kept showing up through all of it. Rotation. 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 Fresh bodies. Fresh pressure. Fresh energy. That matters late in games, especially when games in this league often come down to one possession. Now, there was another interesting note before everything wrapped up. A player spotlight landed on Dylan Fairchild. Bleacher Report reportedly labeled him as Cincinnati's best-kept secret. The discussion pointed toward his rookie season and referenced pass-blocking numbers from late in the year that painted a very encouraging picture. Then came a pretty bold statement. The suggestion was made that Fairchild could eventually become a centerpiece. That's strong praise. Very strong praise. And while even the discussion itself acknowledged that might be getting ahead of things a little bit, it still tells you people around the league are noticing something. Sometimes the biggest stories aren't the players everybody talks about. Sometimes it's the guy quietly developing behind the scenes. And maybe Fairchild becomes one of those stories. So now Bengals fans have a fascinating question sitting in front of them. Out of every move discussed this offseason, which one changes everything? Is it Dexter Lawrence? Is it the deeper defensive rotation? Is it Brian Cook helping eliminate tackling issues? Is it something else entirely? Because if this defense actually delivers what people are starting to suggest, Cincinnati may look like a very different football team this season. I want to hear from you. What move has the biggest impact? And what grade would you give this Bengals offseason based only on everything discussed here? Drop your thoughts below, because Bengals fans always bring strong takes, and I want to see where everybody stands on this. Who Dey?